This essay about living in two different worlds is the second in a three-part series about how I and everybody else in the world does live in two different worlds. And it talks about the time when I was aware of only one world, my world, and that world was utopian. I lived in Merchantville, New Jersey during the war with my grandparents, my mother's parents. And when my father came back, the family moved to Pennsauken, New Jersey. And the distance between where my grandparents lived and where my first home in Pennsauken was 3 blocks maybe. So basically Merchantville and Pennsauken were the same thing to me. And it was idyllic and it was utopian. I had every break that a young kid would wish to have. You know, I was good in school. A cousin of mine had and his children still have, a candy store in Merchantville called Aunt Charlotte's. I worked while I was in 5th grade just prior to Christmas, helping. His name was Berksofer, but everybody called him Bud at that time. He allowed me to work on a conveyor belt, putting pretzels on it to be coated with chocolate. I mean, it was idyllic. Sometime I'll write about the only thing that I can remember that was not idyllic. Idyllic was my parents moved at the end of my 5th grade at Collins Track Elementary School because my dad got a promotion in an insurance company he worked for, which meant that we had to move from the Philadelphia office to Pittsburgh, which meant that I had to say goodbye to Dottie Horton. But there'll be an essay coming up sometime soon. But I did live in a great world. But in the 60s, when I was in college and grad school, I realized there was another world. A world less fortunate than I was. In those days, when I was involved in the civil rights movement outside of Pittsburgh and Ozone, Tennessee, and a number of other places throughout the country, it dawned on me that we are, all of us, living in different worlds. And so this essay addresses the world that once was and what the world is today. And looking back on the 60s and looking today, over half a century later, black kids, teenage or older black males, are being beaten and shot to death by white cops. And black males are being beaten and killed by white vigilantes. How is that any different than the civil rights movement? it's a tragedy, and we have to address the tragedy. And we need to get to a point where we don't live in two different worlds, but in one world, because in fact, there is only one race, and it is called the human race. So, I appreciate your watching this video and reading this essay. But if you're white, you're carrying the burden of racism, whether you particularly are racist or not. Whites are the ones that have created racism in America. And that has to stop. So I do appreciate your time watching, listening to this video, but you must do something positive to change the way our society lives in two different worlds. Meantime, you take care.